Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis hit third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the St. Louis Cardinals in the third game of a 4-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Cardinals, right-hander Andre Palante, and for the Padres, right-hander Joe Musgrove. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 4:45 p.m. at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We check in with Tony Gwynn Jr. in just a few minutes. We have our keys to the game and much, much more to come. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres entered today 76 and 58. They entered today tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks for the National League's top wildcard spot. Padres also begin the day 3 games behind the LA Dodgers for first place in the National League West. Padres had a very good day yesterday, beating St. Louis, and then the Dodgers and the D-backs both losing. Padres have won 3 in a row and are 26-8 in their last 34 games. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are 65-67 coming in. Padres have won the first 2 games of this series. Before we turn our full attention to today's game, let's revisit what went down yesterday in the Lou.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The Padres trailed 2-0 heading to the second last night. That's when Manny Machado got the Padres on the scoreboard.
Is coming, and Machado hammers it deep to left field. Burleson is back. This one gonna go.
So Manny made it a 2-1 game. Padres weren't done. Jackson Merrill hit a 1-out double. David Peralta reached on an infield single. Luis Campusano was next.
1-0. Campusano hard hit on the ground through the right side and a base hit. Merrill will score. Peralta is going to go first to third. RBI single, Luis Campusano, and a tie game 2-2 here in the second.
With Peralta on third base, Mason McCoy drove him in with an RBI ground out. Padres had a 3-2 lead. Campusano was still on second base with 2 men away for Luis Arraez.
So 1-0, Arraez hits it hard on the ground through the left side and a base hit. Campusano rounding third. He's going to come in and score. RBI single, Luis Arraez, and the Padre lead is now 4-2.
It was a 4-run, 5-hit top of the second. Padres had that 4-2 lead. Cardinals got a run in the 5th inning against Dylan Cease to make it 4-3. He was done after 96 pitches. The Padres went to right-hander Brian Hoeing to face Paul Goldschmidt with a runner on base.
1 out, 2-2 pitch, launched to left field. Profar going back. He is at the wall. He will watch, and it will go. A long 2-run homer over the bullpen in left field for Paul Goldschmidt. His 20th of the year. And the Cardinals hop back on top. It's 5-4.
Padres still trailed 5-4 heading to the 7th inning. Cardinals reliever John King was on the mound. He issued a 1-out walk to Mason McCoy. Luis Arraez singled. The pair then pulled off a double steal. McCoy stole third, Arraez stole second. That was a critical double steal because Jerks and Profar then hit a sac fly to center. McCoy scored. We were tied at 5. Arraez went to third base on that sac fly. Tie game at 5. Jake Cronenworth at the plate.
And Jake swings, muscles it into right center field. That's down in a base hit. Scott gets to it and fires in, but Arraez has scored. And what an AB for Jake Cronenworth as the Padres go back in front. It's 6-5.
Then it became a question of if the bullpen could hold it. Jeremiah Estrada tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th. Jason Adam worked around a one-out double in the 8th inning. Padres got an insurance run in the top of the 9th inning to make it 7-5. Tanner Scott came in the 9th inning and shut the door.
2-2. Arenado grounds it sharply off the bag at third. Manny has it on the redirection. Long throw to first is in time, and the ball game is over.
That was that last night. 7-5, the Padres win it over the Cardinals. Padres have won the first 2 games of this 4-game set, and now they go for a series win. Here today with right-hander Joe Musgrove on the mound. Let's go to Busch Stadium in St. Louis.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, let's begin with a look back at yesterday. Another really nice offensive night for the Padres where they really have done, or I should say they did what they've done all year, which is put the ball in play, move the line, quality at bats. They did so many little things last night well to win a ball game. Tony, I know you've said for a long time that approach has been consistent all year, really in the first half as well, when things win and loss wise were a little bit more up and down. Tony, in the overall sense, now that we enter the final month, what has been the most impressive element of the approach offensively this team has had really from the first few weeks of the season on?
For me, the most impressive part is how they got to this point. They never, a lot of times, and this goes for individual players and it goes for teams, like you'll have a plan, you'll start, down that path, and when it doesn't go right, there's like this urge to change up and do something different. And I think what's been impressive is despite those inconsistencies that you spoke of earlier when it was, 2 games over 500, 3 games under 500, what you saw is a consistent approach or attempt to have the same approach night in, night out. And I think what we're seeing now is a team that has laid the groundwork for that, and now it's just become more consistency. Consistent. It is truly a part of what they do and how they work offensively as a team.
Before we get to tonight's starting pitching matchup between Joe Musgrove and Andre Palante, I want to ask you about Mason McCoy, because I think right before his first start in the major leagues with the Padres, Tony, I think I asked you what advice you would give a guy like Mason McCoy, 29-year-old rookie, and I'll tell you what, Tony, he's been very good so far. Yesterday played a real role in that win. What have your early impressions been of Mason McCoy, a guy who has come up and really done a nice job?
He's done excellent, and I think if you're not paying attention, you might miss it. But to be honest, it looks a lot like his time at the big league level during spring.
Yeah.
Like a lot of his at-bats, a lot of the things that he does that, may not stand out when you're watching but help you win ball games are the same things that he's doing right now. And, it takes me back to a lot of times at the beginning of the season, you hear a manager say, well, it's going to take more than the 26 guys that we have in this locker room right now. And I think he's a true testament to that because, listen, once everybody's healthy, I don't know that there's a spot for Mason that as you move into postseason play or things of that nature, should the Padres get there. But he has certainly been able to, I think, mask the fact that you're missing one of your best defenders in Ha-Sung Kim since he's been gone. And that's really all you're looking for. It also fits in line what we've seen all year from this team. Somebody different stepping up when they have to, and this time it's Mason McCoy.
And it's so interesting to think about. We spend so much time talking about all these guys during spring training, and you're right, somebody like Mason McCoy, he played a lot during the Cactus League schedule, played a lot in spring training. We talk a lot about these guys, and then he was down at AAA El Paso. It just goes to show you never know when these guys might have to come up and play a big role, and certainly McCoy has been very good, getting rewarded with another start here tonight. Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres today. Tony, he was terrific in his last start against the Mets. 7 scoreless innings, 1 hit allowed. He was very efficient, 75 pitches. It looked like classic Joe Musgrove. What stood out to you?
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, his command, the shape of his breaking ball. I mean, he has worked on it so much now that you barely know that there was a problem beforehand. I mean, the sweeper looks good. He's got the big curveball that really has been his best secondary in terms of the spin for the last, year and a half at this point. But that was I think that was the best we've seen Joe. And that includes his no-hitter. That's how good he was in that game. And had he not been on a pitch count, he was certainly headed for a CG.
Yeah, he was absolutely terrific in that start against the Mets. We'll see how Joe Musgrove follows it up on this Wednesday in St. Louis. And I'll finish with this, Tony. How's the weather? Tarp was on a little bit earlier. I know how hot and humid it was yesterday. How's the weather right now? How's it feel?
It's certainly not as hot and humid as it was yesterday. Tarp's off the field right now, so I think we're going to be good there. But certainly compared to yesterday, this feels so much better.
All right, very good to hear. Tony, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 4:35 here in San Diego as we get ready for Game 3 of this 4-game set. Thanks so much.
Take care, Sam.
All right, Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for this one. Again, the Padres come into today's game a record of 76-58. Cardinals at 65-67. Padres also looking for a 10th series win in their last 12 series. Padres have had such a good second half of the season. Like we said yesterday, it was a good day all the way around, and we are into that time of year where you pay very close attention to the out-of-town scoreboard every day. Mets beating the D-backs yesterday. Good for the Mets, not so good for the D-backs. And then the Dodgers losing to the Orioles. Padres, of course, winning in St. Louis. So the race is on in the wild card and in the National League West. When we come back, we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game. Plus, coming up a little bit later, we have our keys to the game, a full breakdown of this pitching matchup between Joe Musgrove and Andre Palante. Much more to do on our pregame coverage. And as always, if you want to get involved on our pregame show, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at Sammy Lev, SAMMYLEV. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too. If you want to chime in on our various video streams like YouTube, you can comment there. Let me know, what is your key to today's game, to the third game in this 4-game series? Let me know, what is your key to the game? And I may just read your key to the game coming up a little bit later on. We hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt when we come back on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:45. Game 3 of this 4-game series. Padres have won 3 in a row. They go for a series win here today. Would be their 10th series win in their last 12 series, and they try to do it today with right-hander Joe Musgrove on the mound. Let's quickly pause for station ID on the Padres Radio Network. Padres come in 76-58. Cardinals enter today's game 65-67. Let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Mike, what kind of a luxury is it for you to have Tanner Scott to be able to go to on the back end of the bullpen on a night where Robert Suarez might not be available?
Yeah, no, it's tremendous. It's complete luxury to have the ability to go knowing you're in a tight game, and you go into the game knowing who's available and planning it out, and wanted to really clearly stay away from Robert. Tanner said he felt good, so T-Scott was like, yeah, I'm good. I've been efficient the last couple of days. I've had some rest, and I got an inning in me, and so you work backwards from there, and it's nice to know that you got a guy of his caliber at the end of a game that can bring it home like he did.
It's kind of a unique combination also because there's some guys that are closers. They may not be comfortable in a non-closing role. Other guys not used to being in a closing role. He seems to have really accepted both what he's needed to do when he's not closing and also still available to slam the door when needed.
Yeah, it's a great point, Scan. He's just pitching. He's like, give me the ball. I'll pitch when you need me. Phone rings, my name's called, I'll go. And having that mindset, and openness to do it is impressive and important. Says it's a lot about him caring about the team, and then having the ability to have a guy that goes out and performs when he does that is also clearly important.
Part of learning a new guy in your bullpen also is understanding if he can go 2 days, 3 days, or whatever his capabilities are. 3 days, that's pretty impressive, and still be as sharp as he was.
Yeah, it's coming out good. Talked to Skip about it. We do our research on it. Skip says this guy's a bulldog, likes to pitch, wants to pitch every day. Sometimes we got to throttle back and do our part to control the usage. But he's been very, very adamant about I'm available, I can pitch. And he's also shared, which is very rare, I can pitch. So you kind of know, but no, it's been really good for him to know that he can take the ball and be adamant about it.
Joe was so sharp in his last outing. Obviously, the box score tells a lot about it, but even more so, just all the different weapons he was able to go to and introducing a new weapon. How impressive was that last outing for him?
Very, very, very impressive. Like you mentioned, he goes a new pitch, and the effectiveness of it immediately, the trust and confidence him and Higgy had in it. And, you look at it, and we talk about efficiency, 75 pitches, 9 punch-outs, 7 innings. That's it's about as good as it gets, a recipe for every starter to look at and realize how to go deep in games. Not easy to duplicate, but a great example.
Back to the latest with Ha-Seong Kim.
I'm about to sit down with Kimmy, so I know I promised you answers, but I don't have anything pressing. I'm actually going to sit down with him right after we get through talking, so I'll have something for you soon. But he had a really good day yesterday. The update I can give you is he did throw up to 90 feet. He took close to or right at 70 swings and felt good, so he's progressing. Threw out to 60 feet.
So he did that yesterday.
He did that yesterday.
He didn't do it on the field, so he did it before or after or something.
Yeah, I'm sure he
did. What do you think of the grounders?
I think he probably did. I don't know when he threw exactly, but I know he hit in the cage, and the cage is every bit of that to length, so he might have thrown in the cage too.
Back to the relievers. You have a bunch of guys who weren't here earlier in the season. I'm wondering, what is the process for you of kind of learning what they can handle and how they go about their daily routine and what they're ready for? How did that all go in the last month or so?
It's a combination of things. We take a look at their history, what they have worked on, their workload. Like I said, I mentioned Skip, got a relationship with Skip, talked about the usage with Hoying and Adam, and that was informative. I know Ruben's had conversations about that as well with some people. And then, you look at historically what he's done, how he's done it. Pete Somerville, who does a lot of our game planning stuff, does a really good job with that. Provided me a list of, how often they've gone back-to-back, how many times they've gone 3 times in a row, what their numbers look like when they've gone back out, what their numbers look like when they've gone back-to-back, what their numbers look like when they've gone back-to-back-to-back, how often they've done it. And then, the most important thing beyond that is, you partner with the players and talk about how they feel and make sure they know they can be honest with us. And, yeah, we want to win every game, but we also want to make sure we're protecting their health and balancing, making sure that's that sweet spot taking place between that, and that conversation is huge.
There's a lot of different ways to build an offense, but you guys have, like, in particular, the depth of this offense. What does it do for you when you have, like, an all-star hitting 6th, then you have 1 through 9 who are, like, can be productive, you basically play starting a bunch of rallies, like, just the depth of the lineup, what does that mean?
It means everything. The strength of the lineups, the depth of the lineup. When you have 1 through 9 that can contribute and do different things in a lineup, it lengthens it, and there's no pun intended or point made, but there's no out for a pitcher. There's no place where he can feel like he's got a real let up or a breather. So it's just a consistent, like, hard to strategize against it, hard to pitch against it, and then it makes everybody, some of the parts is pretty good, makes everybody a better version.
We talked about it before, but with the DH and rotating guys and kind of trying to thread the needle maybe, with different people, just how is it going and what goes into kind of the daily choices, I guess, because there are a lot of them.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of them. I think we've been able to get in a pretty good rhythm with it. There's only one, so it's hard to pass it around. We've done it mostly with Crony, Bogey, and Louie, and they've been able to get off their feet and been able to get them in the field, and the way the roster's built, it's the good way of operating that, and it's communication with the player, and they all want. The good news is all those guys, all of them want to be in the field. There's not a guy that like, yeah, give me a DH day. They all want to play in the field. So it is a day to get them off their feet, but that's the big picture how we factor it in. With the lefties, obviously we played the game with Manny and Donovan a little bit more.
What's your understanding of what Elias Diaz could bring to this club if he's up, after rosters expand?
I mean, we love our catching situation. Depth's critical. So having a depth piece like Diaz is really special and unusual. And this guy was an all-star MVP last year. I remember him coming up with Pittsburgh. Obviously seen him over in Colorado. Just a really, really good player. Shut down arm, really can throw. Has a really good bat, has some power. Receives the ball, throws the ball. I mean, he's a veteran guy that knows what this league's about, knows what this time of year's about. So good quality depth piece.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt on a number of different topics earlier today in St. Louis. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:45. You heard a little update there on Elias Diaz, who is currently with AAA El Paso. We'll see what the deal is in the coming days for Diaz and if he does get promoted to the major league roster at some point in the not too distant future. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
It's going to be a very positive who's hot, who's not, because to be honest with you, you look up and down this Padres lineup today, nobody's really ice cold. So let's focus on 3 players in the hot category, and let's begin with Jackson Merrill. 33 games, his last 33. Merrill's hitting .339 with a .363 on-base percentage, .653 slugging percentage, and 124 at-bats, 21 extra base hits, and 29 RBIs in that span of 33 games. In that 33-game span, the 29 RBIs, 5th most in the major leagues. Merrill's 75 RBIs RBIs on the season are second most by a rookie in Padres history, behind Benito Santiago's 79 in 1987. Santiago, the last Padre to win Rookie of the Year, and Merrill could certainly accomplish that as well here in 2024. Merrill has multiple hits in back-to-back games. He's on pace for 163 hits this season. That would be the most by a rookie at 21 or younger since Mike Trout had 182 hits in 2012. Think about that for a second. Very, very impressive. So, Jackson Merrill, of course, in the hot category. Manny Machado, also in the hot category. He's homered in both games of this series. In the last month, since July 27th, he ranks top 10 in the majors in home runs at 9, RBIs at 25, and slugging percentage at .651. Machado has 14 home runs and 41 RBIs in 41 career games against the Cardinals. He has consistently played very well against St. Louis. And rounding out the hot category, David Peralta batting .357, 8 runs scored in his last 12 starts. And that's a look at who's hot here today as we get ready for Game 3 of this 4-game series. When we come back, we take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, our keys to the game, plus a little bit later, we take a much deeper dive into this pitching matchup between right-hander Joe Musgrove and right-hander Andre Pallante. First pitch coming up at 4:45 in St. Louis on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 4:45 in St. Louis. Third game of this 4-game series between the Padres and the Cardinals. Right-hander Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres today. Right-hander Andre Pallante on the mound for St. Louis. Much more on both those guys coming up a little bit later. We'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard in a moment. We'll also have our keys to the game. First, let's give you our injury report.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Couple of quick updates, one on Ha-Sung Kim and one on Wandy Peralta. Let's start with Wandy Peralta. He made his second rehab appearance with Single A Lake Elsinore yesterday, pitched an inning and a third scoreless. So we'll see what the deal is with Peralta moving forward. That was his second rehab appearance with Lake Elsinore. Ha-Sung Kim, we heard the update earlier from Mike Shildt. Kim did play catch yesterday. He also did take some swings yesterday, so he is doing some baseball activity. No timeline yet on when Kim will return from the IL after jamming that right shoulder on August 18th in Colorado. So we'll see what the updates are in the next day or two on Kim, on Peralta as well. And that's a quick update on who's in and who's out during this series in St. Louis. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, tell you what's going on around the major leagues today.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at some of the finals today. Mariners beat the Rays 6-2 in Seattle. Randy Arozarena, a home run in that game for the M's. Astros beat the Phillies 10-0 in Philadelphia. Yordan Alvarez, 3 home runs in that game for Houston. 10 runs on 18 hits for the Astros today. Guardians beat the Royals 7-5 in Cleveland. Bo Naylor, a home run in that game for the Guardians. And finally, the Pirates were up big in Pittsburgh against the Cubs today. The Pirates allowed 6 runs in the 9th inning to Chicago. The Cubs came back to win 14-10 in Pittsburgh. Bit of a disaster of an ending for Pittsburgh today. By the way, just an update for you. Paul Skeens in that game. 5 innings, 2 earned runs given up on 5 hits, so not super dominant for Paul Skeens. As we keep an eye on him as he comes down the home stretch of this NL Rookie of the Year race against Jackson Merrill. That's how Skeens did today. Games going on right now. We have a number of them. Rangers ahead of the White Sox 3-1 in Chicago. That is game 1 of what is a doubleheader today. That first game is a resumption of yesterday's action in Chicago, a game that got suspended in the first inning. Game 2 of that quote-unquote doubleheader coming up a little bit later on. Angels and the Tigers are in a rain delay before first pitch in Detroit. Games in play right now. A's leading the Reds 1-0 in Cincinnati in the third. Nationals 2, Yankees 1 in Washington, D.C. in the second. Blue Jays and the Red Sox are scoreless at Fenway Park in the first inning. Games yet to begin. Braves and the Twins in Minnesota at 4:40. Giants and the Brewers in Milwaukee at 5:10. Rangers and the White Sox at 5:10 in Chicago, like we said, game 2 of that doubleheader today. Marlins and the Rockies in Colorado at 5:40. Mets and the Diamondbacks at 6:40 in Arizona. And the Orioles and the Dodgers at 7:10 in L.A. That's a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. By the way, a very good pitching matchup in L.A. today. The pitching matchup in that one, Corbin Burns on the mound for Baltimore, Walker Buehler on the mound for L.A. The Orioles looking for their first series win in 3 weeks. It has been a tough go of it as of late for the Orioles, so we'll see if the Mets can take care of business against the Diamondbacks in Arizona, if the Orioles can take care of business against the Dodgers in L.A. Padres had a very good day yesterday. They won. The Dodgers and the D-backs lost, so if you're a Padres fan right now, you are rooting. I think at least, I know the Mets are behind the Padres, sort of lurking there, but they're a ways behind the Padres at this point, so I'd probably root for the Mets over the Diamondbacks, considering the situation right now, and certainly rooting for the Orioles. And then keep in mind the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks play one another in 4 games later this week, so it's going to get very interesting the rest of this week when it comes to the Padres and those wild card and division standings. We'll step aside. When we come back, our keys to the game, what to watch for in today's game, and a full breakdown of this pitching matchup between Joe Musgrove and Andre Palante. First pitch coming up at 4:45 in St. Louis on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in just about 12 minutes at 4:35. First pitch at 4:45 in St. Louis. Third game of this 4-game series. We have a lot to do before first pitch. Keys to the game coming up. What to watch for, and a full breakdown of this pitching matchup between Joe Musgrove and Andre Palante. Before we get to all that, I do have to give a special shout out to somebody who tweeted at me, Tyler. And Tyler tweeting, in St. Louis for the Padres game, had to get some toasted ravioli and gooey butter cake, just like Sammy Lev said. If you were listening yesterday, I said, hey, if you're in St. Louis for this series, you're listening right now, and we do have a number of people that do tune in when they're on the road following the Padres. They'll listen on their phone or whatever it might be from the ballpark, listening to the pregame coverage here on the Padres Radio Network. I said, as somebody who started my broadcasting career in St. Louis, I lived there for nearly 3 years. There were two things you got to try: toasted ravioli and gooey butter cake. And a shout out to Tyler, not only trying it today, but also tweeting it at me. And I must say, the pictures that were tweeted at me looks very good. Good toasted rav. Looks like a little bit of marinara in there as well, along with the gooey butter cake. So very nice. Nice job, Tyler, following the instructions, trying the delicacies of St. Louis. First pitch at 4:45. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one, keep this bullpen rolling. The Padres bullpen has a 3.14 ERA since July 30th. That was the day the Padres acquired Tanner Scott and Brian Hoeing from Miami. That was also 2 days after they got Jason Adam from Tampa Bay. Since July 30th, a span of 26 games, the Padres have 10 comeback wins. That's in part thanks to a plus 30 run differential in the 7th inning or later. Padres relievers gave up just 1 run in 4 2/3 innings yesterday. So I bring all that up, all those numbers and the nugget about comeback wins, to say this: the Padres bullpen has been really good at two things: holding leads since the end of July, and also holding deficits sort of where they are, giving this very comeback-prone offense an ability to do that time and time again. So the bullpen, whatever the situation is today, whether the Padres are ahead late, whether they're trailing by a run or two late, Padres relievers, just keep doing what you're doing. The deep bullpen has shined so many times here in the last month or so. Got to keep that bullpen rolling. That's key number one. Key number two, keep on putting the ball in play. We saw this in full effect yesterday. Padres have won 3 in a row. They've scored 17 runs and struck out just 10 times in the last 3 games. In fact, Padres batters have struck out 877 times this season. Might sound like a lot, 877, but it's actually the fewest in Major League Baseball this season. The Padres' 17.4% strikeout rate is the lowest in the majors since the World Series champion Astros had a 17.3% strikeout rate back in 2017 when they won the World Series. So think about that. The Padres do not strike out a lot. They put the ball in play, and yesterday in particular, we saw the power of that. Yeah, they got the Manny Machado home run, but aside from that, it was just singles and moving runners and putting the ball in play and putting pressure on the defense and a double steal. All the things we talked about yesterday. Late game execution. Keep on putting the ball in play. That's key number 2. And key number 3, managing through Paul Goldschmidt, who has not had a great year, but he is 4 for 7 with a home run and 3 RBIs in this series. And the reason I bring up Goldschmidt in particular today, Paul Goldschmidt has some very good career numbers against Joe Musgrove. In 33 career plate appearances against Joe, Goldschmidt is batting .500, 12 hits and 24 at-bats with 1 home run, 9 walks, and a 1345 OPS. So Goldschmidt has done well against Musgrove in his career. If you're Musgrove, if you're the Padres bullpen, you got to find a way to limit Paul Goldschmidt, not having a great year, but he is still very, very capable of hitting the ball out of the ballpark, as we saw yesterday. And that's a look at our keys to today's game. Let's tell you what to watch for here today.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Manny Machado hit a home run yesterday. He's homered in each of the first 2 games of this series. His 9 home runs are the most on the Padres since the All-Star break. He has 22 now in 2024. His home run in the second inning last night was his 160th as a Padre. That's now the 3rd most in Padres history. He trails Adrian Gonzalez at 161 career home runs with the Padres, and he's now 3 behind, tying Nate Colbert, who has the all-time Padres home run record at 163. So the next home run he hits, that'll tie Adrian Gonzalez for second on the Padres' all-time home run list. So that's what we're looking for in today's game. Can Manny tie Gonzalez and move a little bit closer to that all-time record for Nate Colbert? Another thing to watch with Manny, how important he is to this ball club. We've said this a number of times. Padres are 21-0 this season when Manny has multiple RBIs in a game. You zoom out a little bit. From June 19th on, a span of 242 plate appearances, Manny's now hitting .303 with a .930 OPS, 16 home runs, and since June 19th, with all those numbers, Padres are 39-18 in that span. As we always say, usually as Manny goes, the Padres go, and that has been very, very true here in this second half of the season. Let's dive into today's pitching matchup between Joe Musgrove and Andre Pallante.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
On the mound for the Padres, right-hander Joe Musgrove, 31 years old this season, 4-4, a 4.43 ERA in 13 starts, 65 innings. He struck out 60 and walked 18. Joe coming off a terrific outing against the Mets last week. He was great. 7 scoreless innings, 1 hit allowed. He walked nobody, struck out 9, 75 pitches, 58 for strikes, and really the results for Joe since coming off the IL have been good. He's given up just 1 run in 15 2/3 innings since coming off the IL. Remember, he didn't pitch in a major league game for 2.5 months, so for the most part, the results have been very good. We'll see how Joe does today against the Cardinals. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Cardinals today, right-hander Andre Pallante, 25 years old. Pallante this season, 23 outings, 14 starts, a 6-6 record, 3.84 ERA, 2.41 opponent batting average. Pallante coming off an outing where he went 7 innings. That was on Friday in Minnesota. Allowed 5 hits, just 1 run. Went 7 innings. His start before that against the Dodgers gave up 2 runs on just 4 hits, struck out 5. He's been pretty good as of late, 7-0 with a 3.18 ERA in his career against National League West teams. So Pallante, a name you may not know a ton about, but he has been pretty good so far, and especially as of late, and especially against the NL West for the Cardinals. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup today. Andre Pallante on the mound for St. Louis, and San Diego's own Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Padres have won the first 2 games of this series. They go for a 4th win in a row here today, entering today 76-58. The Cardinals at 65-67, and the Padres trying to win this 4-game series with one more remaining in St. Louis tomorrow. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.